students, I am Dr. Anandi. Welcome to my channel Make Biology Simple. For today's session, we are going to see the lecture about enzyme inhibition, which is coming under the chapter enzymes. So in the last video, we have seen about the regulation of enzyme activity. So regulation is totally different from inhibition. Regulation means the enzyme activity can be initiated or it can be subsides whenever the requirement of the reaction has started. So depending upon the availability of the substrate concentration or the enzyme gene level where it starts to synthesize or it is going to down regulate, whatever that was going to regulate the activity of the enzymes based on the metabolism. But enzyme inhibition is totally different. So enzyme inhibition means some compounds that can be bind to the enzyme and it stops the reaction. It's totally inhibit the reaction. Thereafter, no more reaction will happen. So those type of inhibitions, those type of reactions are called enzyme inhibition. So in today's session, we are going to see how the enzymes are getting inhibited and what are the substances or the inhibitors which activates or sorry, which will make the enzyme to inhibit. All this information we are going to see in the today's video. So let move into the video. Enzyme inhibitor. So what is enzyme inhibitor? We see the definition first and then we'll go for the next types of the. So what is enzyme inhibitor? Enzyme inhibitor is defined as a substance which binds with the enzyme and brings about a decrease in the catalytic activity. So you mentioned the word that decrease. That means it is going to stop the reaction, the catalytic activity of that enzyme. So the inhibitor, the nature of the inhibitor may be an organic or inorganic in nature. So coming to that, there are three types of categories of enzyme inhibition. So one type is called reversible inhibition. The second one is called irreversible inhibition. And the third one is called allosteric inhibition. So now we are going to see one by one in detail. The reversible itself mean that when the inhibitor is removed from the system, it can be converted to a active form. That means it is reversible. That means action can be started. Irreversible means you can't convert back to the original form. That means you can't initiate or you can't again make the enzyme to work. So those type of thing is called irreversible inhibition. Allosteric inhibition is the third type, where you can see that there is a site apart from the catalytic site. That site is occupied with the inhibitor and makes it inhibition. So that is called allosteric inhibition. So we'll see one by one in detail about these inhibitions in the further slides. So reversible inhibition. So what is reversible inhibition? So that we'll see shortly, and we'll move on to the mechanism and how it is going to control the reverse inhibition. So first we'll find out what is inhibitor binds non-covalently with the enzyme, and the enzyme inhibition can be reversed if the inhibitor is removed. So those type of inhibition is called reversible inhibition. So under that it is two types. One is competitive and the other one is non-competitive inhibition. So reversible means whenever the inhibitor is not present or the concentration of the inhibitor is very less, then there is no inhibition. So that is the meaning of reversible. And the second, the way that it going to react is it is non-covalently bind with the enzyme. Non-covalently mean it is not strongly bound with the enzyme. So that's why it is now it can be able to remove the inhibitor, or it can easily get removed from the enzyme, and thereby it can start the reaction immediately. So that these are the ways how the irreversible inhibition starts. So and based on the types of, or it is subdivided into two types. I told you, no, one is competitive, the other one is non-competitive inhibition, and one more is there called uncompetitive inhibition is also there. So first we'll move on to these two, which is coming under reversible type of inhibition. So competitive itself, we know that the competitive is meaning is both the substrate as well as the inhibitor are more or less related to the structure similarity. So based on the structural similarity, it goes and bind with the active site part of the enzyme and start or stop the reaction accordingly. That is called competitive inhibition. So let me explain with the structure. So for example, this is an enzyme and this is an active site. So you can see that this is a substrate and this is an inhibitor. And you can also observe that this substrates and inhibitor are more or less having the similar structure. Similar means same structure. That's why it is able to bind with the active site. Actually, the active site is very specific for the substrate alone. Since the inhibitor structure is also similar, it goes and bind with the active site. So when the active site is occupied with the inhibitor, no reaction will happen. So that means no product is produced. But the same active site is occupied by the substrate, then the product formation is possible. So this kind of reaction is called competitive inhibition. There is a second type under the reversible inhibition, that is called non-competitive inhibition. The non-competitive itself explained that the substrate as well as the inhibitor, the structure is not similar. Yeah, that's why it is called non-competitive inhibition. And moreover, the site is also different. In the earlier, you can see only one site is there because of the similarity of the structure of the substrate and the inhibitor. But in the non-competitive type, you can see there is a separate site for the active site and separate site for the inhibitor. And this example, you can see the structure here. This is a substrate and this is an inhibitor. You can see that there is no chance of similarity between the substrate and inhibitor. So that's why it is called non-competitive inhibitor. And the second possibility is there is a separate site. So inhibitor will go and bind to the inhibitor site and substrate will go and bind to the substrate, that is active site. Suppose if the inhibitor bind to the active site, again the possibility of the product formation is very less. And if this active site is occupied by the substrate and if not the inhibitor, then there is a possibility of product formation. So that is the major difference in the competitive inhibition. Sorry, non-competitive and competitive. So first we'll move on to the competitive type of inhibition with the example. So last slide I explained you what is competitive inhibition, how it going to act. Now we are going to see how with an example I am going to explain. So for example, inhibitor is represented as I and substrate is represented as S. And during the bond or bind with the active site, there is a possibility of formation of ES, and if ES is formed, definitely a product will be produced. But in the case of inhibitor, if bounds in the same active site, EI complex is formed. What is EI? It is nothing but enzyme inhibitor complex. But you know that it is not possible of product formation because it stops the reaction. So as I told you, this is a example given for the competitive inhibition. This is succinic acid. This is malonic acid. Succinic acid is actual substrate for the any enzyme called, for example, succinate dehydrogenase or whatever. So here this is a substrate. It is having a structure called CH2COH and CH2COH. And malonic acid, see the structure, it is COOH, COH, but CH2 is there. One more CH2 is missing. But look, both the compounds are looking very more or less same. So that's why this both are can able to bind to the active site of the enzyme. If succinic acid bound, you can expect the product, but malonic acid if it found, you can't expect the product because it's going to inhibit the reaction. So this is the example explained for the competitive inhibition. Next, now this is a graphical representation of the plot and LB plot. In the case of competitive inhibition, the Km value increases whereas Vmax remains changed. That means you have to remember the Km. What is Km? It is nothing but substrate concentration. What is Vmax? Vmax is a rate of velocity of the reaction at the maximum range. So this Vmax and Km can be plotted either in the form, that is Michaelis-Menten form, or in the LB plot. LB means Line-Weaverberg plot. You know, plot will be having a this is hyperbola curve. You can have like this. and this you can see that a sharp line will be touching at the minus x-axis. That is the other difference. And here it is v versus s. Here is 1 by v versus 1 by s. That is reciprocal of the plot. This thing is a major difference between and LB plot. So moving on to the competitive inhibition, on what way the graph looks and what are the changes happen is what we are going to see in this graph. See that Km value is increases. That means substrate concentration is increased at the half Vmax, but Vmax remains changed. That is unchanged. That means it is not changed. It is going to be remain similar. So for example, this is plot. You can see that as the concentration of the substrate increases, you can this pink line explains the inhibitor and the blue line gives an idea about the substrate. So you can see both the inhibitor as well as the substrate is keep on increasing and reaching a saturation level. So that saturation level is called Vmax. So based on the Vmax, when you put on half Vmax, when you cut the graph at the meeting point of substrate as well as inhibitor graph, you can see that there is a separate line for substrate and separate line is touching the x-axis separate for the inhibitor. So this is Km, this is Km dash. What is Km represents for the substrate? Km dash represents for the inhibitor. So here you can see that the Km value is increased for the competitive inhibition. And for the Vmax, you can see that both are reaching the same level of saturation for the Vmax. So that's why it explains the Vmax is remaining unchanged, but the Km is increases. You can see that Km is increases. This is in the case of plot. Coming to the LB plot, you can see that there is a point uh, 1 by V versus 1 by S. As the concentration of the substrate increases, it keeps on increases and a slope is derived for the substrate. Blue lines represents the substrate and I represents the inhibitor. So you can see that meeting point for the substrate as well as inhibitor is same. That represents Vmax is unchanged. But when the lines meet at the minus x-axis, you can see that minus 1 by Km dash and minus 1 by Km. This is for substrate. You know, blue line represents substrate. So the meeting point represents minus 1 by Km for the substrate and minus 1 by Km dash represents for the uh, inhibitor. So you can see that the Km is increased here also. The negative values, the lesser is more, the higher is the lesser. So you can see that the Km is increased here also. When both the plot and the LB plot, it represents that Vmax for the reaction is remains changed, but only the Km is increased. So that's all the idea about which we derived from the graph. So next we move on to the non-competitive inhibition. Non-competitive means you can see that they are bind to the substrates, enzymes and it forms a separate reaction. So it is not like competitive inhibition. So non-competitive inhibition, we have seen that they bind with a separate site. So that inhibitor binds at the other site than the active site and the binding impairs the enzyme function. That means it stops the reaction. It won't, even if substrate binds, it won't allow the reaction to occur. So product formation is not possible at all in the non-competitive inhibition. And the strong affinity for the inhibitor to bind at the second site, that is inhibitor site, is not going to interfere with the enzyme substrate binding, because we know that very well substrate binding is different from the inhibitor's binding. So the example we are going to see for this non-competitive is the metals, that is Ag plus, Pb2 plus and Ag2 plus. All these metals are coming under non-competitive types and they bind with which position of the enzyme means the sulfhydryl group of the cysteine. You know, cysteine is the amino acid. So protein, the enzymes are also made up of amino acid. So at that SH group only this goes and binder. See here the representation of the a non-competitive equation. Enzyme plus substrate will form ES and then E plus P will form. But if enzyme and substrate, if occupied with I, then you form a product called EI plus S, not product. Here you can see enzyme inhibitor plus substrate, again it is removed from the site. Again, see the second possibility is either it bind with EI and form remove the substrate, or you can form EIS complex. EI means the enzyme is attached with enzyme inhibitor plus substrate. Both inhibitor and substrate together will be present in the enzyme. So that complex is called EIS complex. So when only I is bound, we can call it as EI complex. So the example is E plus SH. What is this SH? The sulfhydryl group of the and the cysteine part in the enzyme bound with the mercury, that is metal. So ES H2, Hg2 plus will bind and one proton is removed. So this is how the the inhibitor metal type will bound to the enzyme in a strong affinity way. So same thing we are going to compare in the case of non-competitive inhibition by using the MM and LB plot. Here, there in the competitive inhibition, Km is getting increased and Vmax remain unchanged. In this case, you can see that Km value is unchanged, reverse. There it is increased, here it is not changed. And why Vmax is lowered, there you see Km is increased, but here Vmax is lowered. So we can see how it has happened. So as the concentration of the substrate is increased and the inhibitor is increased, you can see the saturation level is reached for the particular type of substrate or inhibitor. And once the saturation is reached, you can mark it as a Vmax. Here Vmax and this is Vmax by the inhibitor. So considering this Vmax, when you go for the half Vmax means Vmax half. So half Vmax for the substrate is this one and half Vmax for the product is, inhibitor is this one. So you can see that even though two separate lines are formed in the MM plot, but for the half Vmax, when you took and cut it in the x-axis, that is substrate concentration axis, you can see that they both are meet at the same point in the Km, that is considered as a Km. So that's why it is Km getting unchanged. But coming to the Vmax, so Vmax reaches a saturation little bit higher for the substrate than the inhibitor. So that difference you can see that here, and this explains that Vmax is it decreased or lowered. So this is in the case of MM plot. So coming to LB plot, that is Lineweaver-Burk plot. Here you can see that as the concentration of the substrate increases, the product formation is there, and the pink line shows the inhibitor. So yes, you are getting a separate slope for the inhibitor and the substrate. And you can read at the y-axis, it meets at two different positions. This is for inhibitor and this is for the substrates. Here also you can see that Vmax is lowered in the case of substrate and then the inhibitor. But even though there are two separate lines meeting at the y-axis, when it touches the x-axis, that is minus x-axis, you can see a single point. That single point refers the KMS remain unchanged. That means there is no change in the substrate concentration at the half Vmax. They are similar, either for the substrate or the inhibitor. So this is what we have to be referred for the non-competitive or observe in the case of non-competitive inhibition. The next type we are moving is irreversible inhibition. Irreversible means you can't separate the inhibitor and the enzyme, and the reaction is not going to be continued or inhibition based on the concentration of the inhibitor. That's why it is called irreversible. You can't separate. The inhibitor binds covalently. Covalent means it's strongly bound with the enzyme and inactivate them, which is irreversible. These inhibitors are usually toxic substances that poison the enzyme. That means totally it inhibits the enzyme. So example what we are going to see is iodoacetate is an irreversible inhibitor of the enzyme like peptide and glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase. This example we have come across in the glycolysis pathway, glycolytic pathway, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase. You can see that this enzyme is inhibited by the iodoacetate. Iodoacetate is a compound. You can see that again it goes and bound with the sulfhydryl group cysteine part of the enzyme and then makes them inactive. This is one example. The other example is diisopropyl fluorophosphate. It's a nerve gas developed by the Germans during the Second World War. This diisopropyl fluorophosphate is irreversibly binds with the enzyme containing the serine at the active site. Example are serine proteases or acetylcholine esterase. So this is just like a nerve inhibitors. This is a artificial gas developed by the Germans to during the particularly during the Second World War, and thereby it makes the human beings inactive by acting as a nerve inhibitor. It's very similar as a nerve inhibitor. So how it is acting as, it is just bound to the SH group, that is cysteine group of the enzyme, and it is also covalently bound. Covalent means strongly bound, and thereby it inactivates the enzymes called serine proteases and acetylcholine esterase. Acetylcholine esterase and all is coming under the nerve transmission. That is very important for the movement and passing the message in the system. So irreversible type, we know very well, it is the inhibitor can't remove from the enzymes, and there is a no chance of product formation totally. And in the case of reversible, there is a chance if the concentration of inhibitor is less, you can remove the inhibitors can be removed from the substrate and enzymes, and can able to proceed for the next step, that is product formation. So that is the difference between the irreversible and reversible type of inhibition. And there one more type is called uncompetitive inhibition. So with this we are completing the types of inhibition under the enzymes. So that's all in today's video. I hope you understood this concept in a very clear manner. We'll see you in the next new topic in the next video. Thank you.